Buongiorno and benvenuti. Good morning and welcome to the New Jersey Liberation.
In recognition of Italian Liberation Day, members of the New Jersey Italian and Italian American Heritage Commission joined with prominent Italian Americans from the Garden State to celebrate the event. Looking at where we are requires looking at where we've been. Immigrant communities look back to the family.
Governor Florio.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry, and good morning to everyone. I stand here before you as a high school dropout who got my GED diploma in the United States Navy, the son of Vincenzo Florio, a shipyard worker in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, who never went to high school, the grandson of Giuseppe Florio, who came here from Barese, and he started his business after a while, which was a horse and a wagon, delivering coal in the wintertime and ice in the summertime. And every day of his life that I can remember, he praised the day he landed at Ellis Island, because it was the beginning of a whole new life for him and his family.
It seemed like everybody was a relative. Even people that weren't really relatives, we were calling aunts and uncles because they were such close friends.
I think the greatest value that my grandmother taught us was the importance of family.
For us, family is one of the most important things in life. Without family, we are finished. We are nobody. We don't have no strength. We don't have no future. So for us, it's extremely important to keep the nucleo della famiglia sano e unito.
Our next stop will be Ellis Island.
The Italians who came to America brought with them traditions and values that are the result of 2,000 years of civilization and culture. Those traditions evolved, changing the people and changing America. Immigrant families in America have always faced the challenges of change for the sake of the next generation. For today's achievers, the memories of growing up Italian American include many stories of hard times and high hopes.
I've had the good fortune of having all four of my grandparents come from Italy. And it's kind of interesting, and probably in my generation it's a little bit unusual. But as I talked to them growing up, they all came over here. It seemed to me that they felt that America was a promised land.
My grandparents were blue-collar laborers. They were the workforce of this country and the backbone of the United States.
They had the strength, the courage, the desire to leave the mountains of Calabria and the beautiful surroundings of Naples and come to a country where they couldn't speak the language, didn't know how they were going to eat, didn't know what kind of work they were going to, do, yet they knew there was something that they had to do.
When the families arrived, they joined in little groups, and they usually lived in areas where they knew their neighbors and their different paesani who came from the same towns.
But again, always the promise of the openness of American society, the openness of economic opportunity, and a deep felt feeling for the values of democracy and the ability to succeed on your merits.
So when they came to America, expecting to find the streets paved with gold, and realized not only were the streets not paved with gold, but they were expected to pave the streets themselves, they knew that they had a struggle ahead in this free world. And they knew from their own experiences in the old world that they had to have that same strength, that same fortitude, that same courage to prevail.
With tight communities and strong families as a base, Immigrant Italians sought to make some kind of mark in their new home, and that meant moving out into the world of work.
First of all, assuming that nobody's going to give you anything for nothing is already a big step forward, because you know you got to work for everything you get, which gives you more of an incentive to work hard and to try to achieve something. Secondly, the fact that you did not have anything that you could count on also spurred you on to do better. And thirdly, I mean, Italians have always been very resourceful people. In Italy, there is a saying that goes l'arte di arrangiarsi, which means the art of making do. So you always find something to do to make ends meet. You know, if it's not one thing, it's another.
Here in New Jersey, these people that came over as immigrants and really were ignorant, they didn't have any education whatsoever, but they were smart enough to know that it was important to send their children to school and to have them go to college and be educated.
Italian families saw education as America's greatest prize, the key that would reward their children.
My grandmother and grandfather, and then my mother and father, wanted us to go to work and do something for people, not just for ourselves. And medicine, I never heard anything in my house except to become a doctor, become a doctor. I knew, because of what my heritage was, that I had to do something great for the rest of the world. And medicine, I thought, besides the priesthood, would be the best way to have an impact as an Italian man in the United States.
Education was primary concern in our entire family. I could not remember a dinner or any affair that we had that all of my uncles were not asking me, well, where are you going to college? What are you going to do? What do you see for yourself in the future? So even though they were not educated, they recognized the importance of education.
A truly educated person, as that would translate, meant, from the standpoint of my parents' view, someone who really understood the world, someone who was well-read, someone who understood people of different races, someone who understood different religions, someone who truly could read a newspaper and feel as though they could comprehend what was happening in different parts of the world, that was a person who was truly educated.
They insisted that their 4 sons do well in school, get a good education, and then proceed from there. And he was a taskmaster. And my grandfather Martini was a real taskmaster, but in a positive way. And he viewed the United States as a place where his children could get a good education and become something of themselves.
1, pa, 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 together. Ready? And loud. I wanted to be a musician, and he felt that that was not a fitting profession. And he said to me, I think you ought to go in for something a little bit better than that. I said, well, I plan to go into music education. Oh, all right. And mind you, this was after I had been in Europe in World War II. I was getting permission from my dad to change my career at age 22. But that's how much we valued parentage.
They wanted to be a part of America. They wanted everyone to get well educated and certainly work hard and strive to greater heights. And I remember my grandmother on the way out, every time I was a teenager, you're whatever you were doing, and she used to say to me in Italian, don't make a fool of yourself, have respect for the name.
With education as the driving engine, the Italian-American community would transform over a generation.
When I became president of this college, somebody said to me, I don't know how you're going to be president. You look so ethnic. And I said, well, thank you.
I think that's another Italian-American characteristic, that whatever you do, if you're the person who is in a skilled occupation, if you're mowing a lawn, if you're hanging a picture frame, if you're baking some cookies, whatever it is you do, you need to do it with gusto and do it well, to the very best of your ability.
My grandmother and grandfather, Corrado, my grandfather who started this business, was a very hard worker, a very loving grandfather, at the same time strict. And I regard him as a man of vision, someone who was able to see beyond his own generation. And as he began to build his own business, he wasn't looking to benefit himself, but looking to benefit his children and his grandchildren and his grandchildren's grandchildren. He essentially worked hard for us and not for himself.
When people come to America, they incur debts, and everybody had to go to work. In fact, because I was only 13, I couldn't go to work. Although I did find a job sweeping floors at one of the many factories that are in Hoboken. But the rest of my family, within 2 weeks, they all had jobs because of that wonderful support system that they found in Hoboken. If the tradition of hard work, if you can call that a tradition, then it is. Then we exercised it very well in Hoboken.
Well, I think that the Italian generation is, they're hardworking people, and they mostly pretty successful in business. And I followed their footsteps. I worked very hard all my life. That's what contributes to my success in the fishing business, I guess.
My father was a tremendous worker. He had a work ethic like you could not believe. Anything he put his mind to, he could do. And that same work ethic is in me. And I said, if my kids are going to be like I am, and my father was, they're not going to work for anybody else in their whole life. They're going to work for themselves.
To a certain extent, I think a lot of Italian Americans don't realize how well we've done in this country. And sort of have not an inferiority complex, but they just don't realize that they're part of a very, very successful community now.
If you look at the businesses today, take a look at who's leading your largest corporations in this country. Take a look at who's on the boards of your largest corporations in this country. And you're going to find, in most cases, Italian Americans, if they're not presidents or CEOs, they're right there with them. They're on the boards. Okay, you know, that to me is the real people that have been a significant change.
But there's something, I think, distinctive about Italian Americans in their willingness to make a stand for what they think is right, and a willingness to speak up on behalf of not only themselves, but on behalf of other groups that have been oppressed. There's a sense of justice that the Italians have brought with them, maybe learned through suffering through centuries of injustice at home.
When my father opened up his bakery in Camden, New Jersey, he didn't have a horse and wagon. He didn't have a truck to deliver his product. He had a bread basket. And he put that bread basket on his arm, and he went door to door, promoting his business, his dream. Then the Depression came, and a lot of people were out of work, didn't have no money, no bread to feed their kids. My father gave free bread to many, many families in the city of Camden. My father didn't do that in order to receive. He gave things because that was the right thing to do, simply the right thing to do at that time. And that's the kind of man he was.
When my father went to school in Belleville, New Jersey, after they left Newark, he couldn't speak English very well. My dad could not. And all the kids used to make fun of him. He went on to represent the non-English speaking blue-collar laborers that his father was. He became an attorney, a single office attorney that helped people who were hurt on the job. My dad did. And most of those folks were from Passaic and Patterson, and they were new to this country. And he just continued the legacy that his parents brought to this country.
Oh, America is so much better off because of all of the Italian immigrants who came to this country. They brought not only just their own hard work, but they brought a moral sense and an ethic rooted in the family, in responsibility, in hard work, in loyalty to country, to community, to family.
The values of family and home and friends and the importance of giving, the expectation that you would give of yourself, to the larger community, that that's what you're expected to do. I think that's Italian. And I think that's a contribution that we Italian Americans make to education, business, law, whatever we're involved in, whether we're thinking about it or not.
For some Italian Americans, the successful transition into the mainstream has come at the expense of their cultural difference.
My mother was determined that we were going to grow up as Americans. In fact, we never learned to speak Italian. And although my mother and father spoke Italian half or more of the time, I never understood. And it was only until I was in my early 60s, I asked my older sister, why the hell didn't we ever, get taught Italian? And the reason was that my mother wanted us to grow up as Americans.
While Americanization continues, many of today's Italian Americans are recovering the links to their culture and passing them on to the next generation.
There's a large population of people of Italian ancestry in the United States who are very much interested now in exploring their roots. And it's an important moment. There are people who've become real successes in America and who are interested, after years of dedicating themselves really to assimilating, now interested in finding out what's special about Italy and its history and its culture.
Universities in New Jersey have become centers for Italian study. Rutgers University has the second largest Italian language program in the United States.
Infatti, come viene al verso 6, viene presentato, però me ne andai sicur senza sospetto.
E quando incomincia l'inferno, incomincia il primo canto nel venerdì santo, e qui Petrarca finisce.
Rutgers University is also home to the New Jersey Italian and Italian American Heritage Commission and Institute.
I'm so pleased to be with you all this morning. I'm proud to talk about the Curriculum Development Committee, of which I'm chair.
Curriculum for Italian and Italian American heritage education is being developed and introduced for use in grades K through 12 in New Jersey schools.
On the curriculum to ensure the assessment.
This is an annual event, and it's called Italian Heritage Day. Today, the students get an opportunity to showcase what they've learned and to share it with their peers and with other teachers. And it's a day for them to celebrate their Italian studies. Third and fourth generation Italian Americans have gotten an interest in their roots, and there's a lot more travel to Italy. And I think there's also a resurgence to give a more positive aspect of our heritage in New Jersey.
A reawakening is also taking place in the city of Princeton, home to the Dorothea House, where programs celebrating Italian culture have flourished.
In '86, we started to organize programs related to the Italian culture.
Bracciole, everybody, bracciole, bracciole. Remember, in Italian we pronounce every single letter, we don't waste anything.
People show up from all possible backgrounds, not only Italians, many Americans, people from other parts of the world.
Piatto delizioso.
Spaghetti bolognese.
Spaghetti alla bolognese.
but they all have something in common, which is an interest in the Italian culture.
Princeton has a long tradition of Italian influence. Skilled stonemasons and stonecutters arrived to construct buildings at Princeton University in the mid-1800s, followed by larger numbers at the turn of the century, and then a wave of scholars, researchers, and scientists after World War II.
I came to this country in 1966 after my studies in physics at the University of Padua, and I was coming to Princeton to join the plasma physics lab of Princeton University, that in those days was considered the mecca of research in thermonuclear physics. Actually, when I joined the lab, I was happy to find the other Italians had preceded me.
Italian Americans continued to play a vital role in the Princeton community, organizing public service efforts as well as celebrating traditional Italian culture in their newfound home.
The love of the culture, the love of the life, the love of good food, the love of wine, the love of company, good conversation, good music. And it's just natural. It's just part of who we are.
We see in every aspect of life where the Italian Americans have contributed something a little different because they're Italian American. But they also have been able to integrate into the American experience well, have strengthened America because of that, and still maintain an important part of their Italian culture, which other Americans seem to enjoy and welcome as well.
This reawakening in Italian Americans is part of a larger trend. A growing feeling among people of all ethnicities that America is a place where one's citizenship need not mean the loss of one's traditions.
And when people understand where they came from, then they become much more confident sometimes in their actions. Because if you know where you're coming from, and you understand, why I am what I am, what I'm made up of, I think that is such a positive aspect. And it also gives you a sense of identity. It gives you a sense of family. It gives you a sense of purpose.
And there is so much to be learned from each different group, because each group has something that is special to them. That is what makes this country so great. The fact that we have a mixture of so many different cultures. We have a mixture of so many different peoples. We are rich with this diversity, and we are probably the only country to offer this opportunity.
One of the good things, very good things about America is that it embraces the diversity of peoples throughout the world, and that you can maintain that original culture from which you derived, and that can still stay alive. I hope that continues.
Is a renewed commitment to try to make this nation that we are all now so proud of, continuing as a nation that is a land of opportunity, a place where people can bring their skills and their talents and rise to whatever level their energy, their intellect, and their hard work will allow them to rise to. That is something that we should all be very proud of, the contribution we've made to the nation, and the fact that this nation gave us the opportunity to be able to do the things that we have done. So let us all leave this place today recharged with pride in our heritage, but recommitted to ensuring that those who come after us, not only those who are our own, our children and our grandchildren, but really the children and the grandchildren of everyone who is part of this nation, continue to have the opportunity to excel, to be all that we can be. Thank you all very, very much.
I am an Italian American. My roots are deep in ancient soil, drenched by the Mediterranean sun and watered by pure streams from snow-capped mountains. I am enriched by thousands of years of culture. My hands are those of the mason, the artist, the man of the soil. My thoughts have been recorded in the annals of Rome, the poetry of Virgil, creations of Dante, and the philosophy of Benedetto Croce. I am an Italian American, and from my ancient world, I first spanned the seas to the New World. I am Cristoforo Colombo. I am Giovanni Capoto, known in American history as John Cabot, discoverer of the mainland of North America. I am Enrico Vespucci, who gave my name to the New World, America. I am proud of my full heritage. I shall remain worthy of it. I am an Italian American.